first day of fall, right? The 22nd, or is the 21st the first day of fall?
It's today.
All right. Well, happy first day of fall, y'all. It feels like it. It's a beautiful day outside and a wonderful day to be networking virtually, I suppose. I'm really excited about the about this call because, and I think you could kind of tell. Normally, just for those of you who don't normally make it, we'll end up with 12 to 20 folks on here, and I think we had over 40 RSVPs. So there were a lot of folks. I think that even folks that do events like myself, have some questions. And as I've told our panel, our guest speakers, I want to see what their experience is. I want to hear the positives and minuses, and we know there's a lot of minuses to not networking in person. But hopefully, what can make us what can make us better, and how to adapt in this environment. But obviously, what I want to first do is everybody have a chance. I'm not going to time it, but I'll start making a gong noise or something if you start going too long. Maybe take about 30 seconds and just kind of see who you are and what you do and who a perfect client is for you today. And we'll just fly through that real quick. I think we're 23 folks right now. So let's start with, I made a list as people kind of came in. Let's start, and it's kind of weird. Let's go Scott Fields, then George, and then Ken. Y'all will be the first three. So take it away, Scott.
Hey, good morning. My name is Scott Fields. I'm a probate and real estate attorney working out of Tucker, Georgia. What was the question again? I know the last.
Who are you? What do you do?
Ideal client.
Yeah. Oh, ideal client. Wow. So I'll burn through the rest of it pretty quick. Ideal client for me, unfortunately, is someone who has just lost a loved one. And the family or friends are trying to work through the legal process. Especially if there is property, real estate involved. We work to get people quickly to the point where they can take care of that real estate as part of the estate process.
Awesome. George? Are you on mute, bud?
George Tucker. I am moving into the arena of commercial real estate from 40 years in residential and also developing. I came off my medication about 5 years ago, and I've been seeing visions ever since. So the vision that I'm seeing now is, for the last 3 or 4 years, is the urban infill for Atlanta, with transit being at its center focus, because transportation will be driving development. So my ideal client is one who is looking for the long-term future play of property, and is looking for someone that can help him to see that vision and put him in the right place. Atlanta is on the cusp of greatness because of growth, and technology is driving transportation and development.
Awesome. Thank you, George. All right, Ken. Where'd he go? Ken was here. We'll come back to Ken. Al Brown.
Yes, Al Brown. I'm with Talbot Insurance, and I specialize primarily in the PNC arena, working with primarily with businesses, contractors, trying to save them money and make sure that they're properly covered.
Fantastic. All right, let's go Karen, Arthur, and Andrew.
Hey, I'm Karen Armstrong. I'm a residential real estate agent, and I work a lot around Tucker, Doraville, Chamblee, Decatur. Ideal client would be somebody who might need to sell because they were affected by COVID and maybe don't have their job anymore and need to sell fast. Another good one would be somebody moving to the mountains because they decided with COVID they can work from anywhere now and they want to get out of Atlanta. And I also know a lot about investment properties. I've had them for like 25 years. So if anybody wants to talk about that.
Awesome. Arthur?
Hey, good morning. I'm Arthur Hufford. I'm a residential real estate agent and property manager. I live and work in Tucker. Been here for almost 20 years near Livesey School. My ideal client would be someone looking to move in or out of Tucker. And also, I also specialize in 55 plus age group with people who might need a little extra service, a little hand holding, a little face-to-face, not so much technical closing, but an actual physical face-to-face closing and face-to-face listing. So anybody looking to move in or out of Tucker, especially someone with who's either moving an older person into assisted living or has lost a parent. The last few people I've dealt with have been estates, having to where a child has inherited a house they don't want, and they don't know what to do with it, and they don't know how to clean it out. So I take care of all that stuff for them.
Fantastic. Andrew? Make sure he's still there.
Yeah, I'm still here. Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Andrew Carlton. I'm an IT architect, recently retired from AT&T, and my ideal client is Fortune 500 company looking for a good consultant or an employee for that matter.
Awesome. Matthew?
Matthew Evans with Atlanta Fine Homes and Sotheby's International Realty. Do residential. Pretty much my ideal is going to be all the way up Georgia 400, starting in Buckhead and going all the way up to probably just below Cumming or Cumming itself, and then the peripheral around that too. So I just new to the business, been in about a year and a half. So haven't pigeonholed myself for expertise in anything, but I was a director of golf beforehand. So I do a lot of country clubs and stuff like that.
Fantastic. Good to call when you have a scramble, correct?
Yes.
We shot, by the way, my cousin and I shot 20 under yesterday just with our own 2 balls. That's pretty bad. Awesome.
That's very good.
Yeah,
And I'm good at scrambles because I can drink, not because I can play good golf.
good point. Good point. All right, Tracy, Michelle, and Alexis.
Hey, I'm Tracy Wise. I am with AAG, the #1 reverse mortgage lender in the world. I don't do loans myself. I support a production team. However, if you have questions and you don't want to go through the formal counseling, I'm happy to talk to anyone about the ins and outs, pluses and minuses of a reverse mortgage. So I would be happy to talk to any mortgage loan officer who wants to do reverse mortgages, as well as anybody in your family, including the children, about what a reverse mortgage is and isn't, and if it's the right fit for you and your family.
Cool. Michelle Weston.
Good morning, Michelle Weston. I am a retail market manager for Synovus Bank. I'm located here in Tucker, Georgia, and our ideal candidate would be anybody who wants the benefits of banking with a regional bank, but still personalized customer service.
Awesome. Alexis.
Good morning again, Alexis Bouchel. I work with programmers who air television programs on public television stations nationwide. My ideal client would be someone with a series or a documentary that would be fitted for a public television audience.
Okay. Naeem. I already did Al. Hang on a second there. Naeem, Misty, and Howard.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Naeem Harrison. I'm the broker for Kennedy Taylor Realty. My ideal client would be buyers or seller on the residential side, but also I'm looking to work with investors and developers that we can do joint ventures as far as buying properties, renovating them, and reselling, and or long-term rental.
Fantastic. Just a quick note, make sure you're on mute. Somebody else had some bleed over noise coming in, if you don't mind. Misty.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Misty Palmer with Tandem Bank, and as of tomorrow, I can't keep saying New Bank because we're a year old, but I am a business development officer, and a perfect client for me would be a small business in the Tucker, Dorville, Decatur area.
You can still say new bank. If I had a 1-year-old baby, it would still be a new baby. It would still be a new baby. Howard, Dave Turney, and Peter James.
Good morning, everyone. Howard Silvermans. I am a life and disability insurance guy. My ideal client is typically an attorney or a banker that has something at stake, has something at risk that they want to protect and take care of. Areas that I work in would be mortgage protection, disability insurance to protect their retirement plan, and also if people are looking for ways to accelerate their mortgage. Thanks.
Yo. Turney?
Dave Turney. I've missed a few meetings. It's been busy. I'm glad to be back. Thank you, Art, for keeping this going. I do internet marketing, consulting, that kind of thing. A lot of focus on SEO and analytics, so search and that kind of thing. But do a lot of kind of virtual CMO for small businesses. So people can't really afford a full marketing agency or full-time resources. You know, we can just kind of do it on an ad hoc basis, which is nice. We had a lot of, business has been just nuts this year, which is great if I can keep it. But it's a lot of people transitioning. So if you're, ideal client, you're dealing with COVID, you're getting started, you're starting something new, just talk to me. It's free to talk. We don't start charging until we start doing work for you. So, Dave Turney.
Awesome, Peter.
Morning, guys. Good to see you all. James, your first choice for final expense planning. Like Scott, my ideal client would be someone around the death arena, unfortunately. Folks are more aware at that point that they need that type of stuff. We have a saying that final expense is like a parachute. If you don't have it when you need it, you don't need it anymore.
That's true. That's true. All right, Dan, Michael Moore, and Bob Smith. Dan White, come off mute, buddy.
Can you hear me?
I can now.
All right. Dan White, we've got a family-run all-state insurance agency located in the thriving metropolis of downtown Lilburn. Statistics show that sooner or later, everyone's going to have a bad day. The emotional part will be bad enough. We want to make sure that we build a wall of protection around you so that it does not ruin you financially. Ideal client for me is someone who wants to adequately protect their assets and or their family. Dan White with Allstate. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Michael Moore.
Well, good morning. I'm your only rainmaker and chief storyteller on the line this morning, as far as I know. Also, I'm the podcast guy, and most importantly, I'm like Peter James. I'm planning for my final expenses. I've got the parachute. I just don't know when I'll use it. In my 8th decade of life and having a lot of fun. But if you have a story that you need to tell, we can help put you onto a podcast. If you want to be more prevalent in Buckhead, I can help you with that. I'm the incoming president of the Buckhead Business Association for the 2nd time in the last 20 years. And we're looking forward to being out of COVID and into a more productive process so we can grow your business to an entirely different level. I'm Michael Moore. Good to be with you this morning. Looking forward to hearing my cousin Corey tell us how to be more successful in a pandemic. Thank you.
Love it. Love it. Bob Smith, Rick Ferguson, and Ken Fainer. And I think before y'all go, I don't think I missed anybody, but we'll also let Corey, Joel, and Peter tell us what they do as well. So Bob, Rick, and Ken, and then y'all let me know if I missed anybody other than the other three, and myself and Donna.
Alrighty. So good morning, fellow Fuse members and guests. So each of us knows there's an important election around the corner. No, I'm not talking about the general election. I'm talking about open enrollment for Medicare and for the Affordable Care Act. So that's what I'm focused on. I'm a health and life insurance agent for individuals that do not have group insurance. So individuals do not have to wait for the open enrollment because plans off the marketplace you can get anytime. So again, I'm Bob Smith. I put in the chat box, who cares? And I say, if you go to my website, bobcaresforyou.com, you'll know who cares.
Ferguson.
Hey, good morning. My name is Rick Ferguson, and I'm a commercial broker. I have my own firm. I help people make money. I love selling buildings. Just sold a nice building in Chamblee for one of your Tucker neighbors, Art, a company called Quinn Windows. I sold their former building in Chamblee. To give you an idea of the power of commercial real estate, they paid approximately $175 for it 3 years ago, and I sold it for $400,000 in about 2 weeks. We're going to take that, 1031 it, give the money to a trustee, go buy something else, and defer the taxes and let their profits keep growing. George, someday I'd love to get with you. Maybe we could make some magic together, make some money. I do a lot of work, what I call down in the hood, in the path of progress. Been down off of Bankhead Highway with an investor for about 10, 15 years. Have property listed right now down in Pittsburgh, commercial property off of Dill Avenue. Little eclectic in what I do, but I do love selling and leasing commercial real estate here in Atlanta and making people lots of money. They tend to drive much nicer cars than I do as a result.
Awesome. Ken Fainer.
All right, good morning. I hope everybody can hear me. I've had computer problems, had to switch computers, and the other microphone didn't want to work. But I'm Ken Fainer with a Social Glue, social media marketing and email marketing that sticks. And I'd like to talk just for a second about email marketing and how important it is right now. It's super important to stay in touch with your customers. And I know a lot of you have probably picked up the phone, called some, have talked to many over the phone, have done a ton of Zoom meetings and Skype or whatever you're using to stay in touch with people. Email marketing makes that step a little bit easier because you can stay in touch with people monthly, weekly, however you want to do it, and give them a good solid message, maybe give them tips and tricks and things like that to help them with their business. Whatever it is, the idea is to provide good, valuable information to them, something they enjoy getting from you, and that's what I help my customers do. So during this time, it's very important. There's been people who've been shut down, and it's really destroyed their business, and there's been people who've been shut down, and they've been able to make that step over to doing more online. Now, I know some businesses like restaurants can't do that, but it doesn't hurt to stay in touch with your client base so that when you come back, that you've got folks remembering you and thinking about you. So Ken Fainer, the Social Glue, social media marketing and email marketing that sticks.
Awesome. Miss Donna, then Corey, then Joel, then Peter.
Hey, I'm Donna Plazik, and I work with Artwood in business development. Perfect client for us is somebody who's looking to purchase or refinance and needs a mortgage.
Awesome, awesome. Corey.
Corey, networking Moore. Yes, my cousin is Michael Moore through marriage. Company is Pro Networker. We are a resource center for networking events before COVID for face-to-face networking events. Our goal was to help business owners and sales professionals that want to grow their business through networking to actually help them find the event. We believe that if you can't go to a networking event if you don't know where it is. We also produce events. Right now during COVID, we actually have approximately 3 virtual event concepts that we're doing right now. So still getting out, trying to help people network and the benefits of growing their database and meeting new people. So Corey Network King.
Awesome. Joel?
Well, since there's so many realtors on here, I'll talk about my other business, which I don't talk about too much.
I do carpet cleaning, stretching, and repair in the real estate industry. Most of my clients are realtors around the whole metro area. So if you're listing houses and the carpets look like they have ski moguls in it, we come in and fix that before your listing, clean it up. And for your showings, we do that too. So I just wanted to put that out there. But my company, my main company is Big Event Productions, been doing it since 2011. We do networking events every month except since February. And I also have a networking newsletter called Joel's List. Goes out to about 15,000 people. We list anywhere from 100 to 200 events considering what's going on. Joel Peskin, Big Event Productions. Oh, and I also produced the Greater Atlanta Business Expo. Forgot all about that.
Awesome. Awesome. Peter?
Good morning, everybody. Peter Pasternack, founder and host of Real Estate Connections. October 2010, I created the network event Real Estate Connections that averages over 300 people. And the reason I did that was I wanted a networking event that just revolved around the real estate world. So everybody there somehow touches a home. Now, we all know what COVID has done and not being able to have a live event. So I was smarter than I thought, I just didn't know it. But 3 years ago, I did a digital extension of the event. And so on Facebook, there is my group, Real Estate Connections. And right now, we are 100 people short of 20,000 people in the group. So if you want to connect and engage with other professionals, join our group, Real Estate Connections. And I'm glad to be here today.
Fantastic. Did I miss anybody that didn't get to chat? I think I got everybody. All right. Except for myself, which is I'm Art Wood. I am a mortgage guy. We've got 3 offices in Charlotte, Carrollton, and Tucker. And I think our team right now is about 25 strong. And it has been balls to the wall since March. They dropped the rates, and we typically, in fact, I'll tell you, my best year ever was last year. I did 158 units, and I actually met that by May of this year. So it has been crazy. So really anybody right now that has an interest rate that starts with a 4 needs to refinance, or anybody that is, I can't think of a better time to buy a house when you can get an interest rate under 3%. So that's what I got. So let's go to the meat and potatoes, if you will. And just so you know, I will go Corey, Joel, Peter on this as well. For those of y'all that did not hear at the very beginning, we're going to just listen to these guys. They are, when actually Raymond Grody was the one that suggested I was asking for ideas on what to talk about. He says networking during a pandemic, and I knew exactly the 3 guys to call. So, so I really, I've done a lot of what they have done, but not nearly as well as they've done it. I think from my perspective, I think when we started Business After Hours, I think it was a year after Real Estate Connections started, Peter. I think, soon thereafter. So, I mean, technically this has been going on since 2011, I think. Joel, that's right when you started as well, I believe. So, I'm not really sure. Maybe one thing that we could even talk about through that is the 3 of us kind of seem to start right around the same time doing our things. And what was it that led us to start that? What was it about that time period that led us to start it? But the other thing I learned from a preacher friend of mine, that not just everybody in the world has the ability to pull people together. That is a God-given talent that these 3 guys have. And I just, for me, I feel like I've got some of that talent, and I thought everybody could do it, but I promise you not to do it. Not everybody can bring 300 people out at a night. So, so let's just kind of roll. Corey, we'll start with you, the network king, pro networker, and recovering CPA, I believe.
Actually, not recovering, because COVID came in and we took away face-to-face events, and I was like, you know what? This tax thing is not too bad. I was very thankful for my accounting firm. Yes, I am actually a EA, which is an extroverted accountant. So yeah, and that's actually how how I grew my tax business is from networking. Started my tax business back in 2004, 2005, and really grew the entire firm through network, which I was very proud about. Very proud that I didn't have to sell anybody. I just pretty much told people what I did. But as I then started finding out how much success that I was having with networking, which is that concept of meeting somebody who you don't know, telling them what you do, and then they tell you they want to give you money. And I thought that was phenomenal. So, and I then wanted to make sure that everybody that I came in contact with knew about this and had that opportunity as well. So grew the business for about 5 years. And then in 2000, actually, we were letting people know about different networking, and that's really how it started, letting people know about different networking events. Because again, I just wanted to make sure people had the information that I had. And it wasn't, we did that probably for a couple of years, but it wasn't until 2010, in August, we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. But then that's when I figured out, you know what, we could actually do this as a business and do this actually formally. So we then started letting people know about events more. Started producing things, and we've done some pretty large events. And, but yeah, I actually love it. I truly drink the Kool-Aid of face-to-face, well, I guess now virtual networking. So enjoy it.
Awesome. And make sure everybody's on mute as well. I don't know, Corey, if you were echoing yourself or if it's somebody else, but make sure you're on mute if you're not chatting. All right, who did I say next? Joel.
Hey everybody, it's Joel Peskin. I think I started networking in about 2007, 8, and then obviously the real estate market collapsed. A lot of things were going south. And I noticed that about by 10 and 11, when it really started leveling off, that people really needed to go out and network. They just wanted, and I belong to a lot of chambers and business associations, and the crowds were huge. I mean, they were probably the biggest they've ever been in networking in 20 years. And what I did is I used to see a lot of the chambers and business associations, and as an attendee, I decided I didn't like this, I like that. I didn't like this, I like that. My background is Wall Street and the music business, two polar opposites. But I had one thing in my head. I enjoyed the social part of business and networking. I thought that was the new golf course. I'd rather be inside in a cool place than on a hot golf course, and people are drinking, eating, and really getting to know each other and letting their hair down like I did now, because I hadn't had a haircut in 8 months. And I started doing these events. I had no expectation, and they just kept getting bigger, and I moved them around. We were always about promoting the venue rather than the name of the event. It was about where the next event was. So it's a little bit a different take on it. But, you know, going 8, 9 years forward, we've got and it was all because of this newsletter I put out. I used to send it out to people who I saw at networking events. I go, hey, we'll probably see each other at all these events. Why don't I just send you out a list of what we're going to do? I just took it upon myself to let people know where we're going to be anyway. And all of a sudden I got calls and emails. And it just grew and grew and grew. And then from the big event, the expo came out. I said, well, you know, I think I could do this. I mean, no one saw me. I guess that's what an entrepreneur does. They just think of something and they go forward and give it a shot, you know, win or lose. And right now I'm on my 15th expo. It's going to be November 5th I moved it out of the Cobb Civic Center to the Avalon Hotel, the Alpharetta Convention Center, which is a beautiful place. And they're really working with us hard to get this event to go, but it's been an interesting ride.
Awesome. Peter?
So I started Real Estate Connections October 2010. And the reason I did is I've always enjoyed going out and networking and being around people. But what I noticed when I went to a lot of events was I might only meet 1 or 2 people that, you know, I could probably do business with. So my idea when I started Real Estate Connections was I wanted an event that was focused on the real estate community. And I remember going to several real estate managing brokers and owners and said, hey, what would it take for you to want to really attend my event? And I remember people telling me that that was absolutely the worst idea. They go, there's no way that realtors and people are going to come to your event. But here is what I knew. If you can articulate to people what's in it for them, not you, they will come. And so the other part that I was clear about is that for me, the event is not just the night of, but how you follow up. So one of my favorite books is Michael Mears' The 7 Levels of Communication. And in that, there's a pyramid that goes from least effective to the most effective forms of communication. The number 1 is a one-on-one. The number 2 is networking. So I'm very clear that my networking event isn't the finish line. It is to get me to a one-on-one. Now, before COVID, what I realized is that I used a networking event to set my one-on-ones. Now, on a typical month, I was doing over 100 one-on-ones. So the growth of the networking event was really about increasing my database, which is something that I've enjoyed teaching classes on because I have now over 40,000 people in my database, which is based out of networking and using LinkedIn. So I believe the success is understanding what it takes for people to come to the event, but also the art of being able to put people together with a common goal in order to build and nurture relationships.
All right, I'm going to just start with some questions that I have, and if any of you guys, because we talked a lot about just networking in general, but I want to see, and not to any specific person, but obviously being able to meet in person has gotten a lot more difficult, obviously. What are some tips to get the most out of virtual networking? And and are we still seeing, are y'all still attending? You still putting on Zoom networking things? Give me your experience with that. However, you just jump in.
So I'll kind of jump in. Let me first start off by saying, and I might just speak for myself, I hate virtual networking. Let me just be clear.
Amen.
Thumbs up.
Let me just be clear. I think we're all family. I'm not saying that there's not benefits, because there definitely are benefits, but I am definitely an extrovert, a people person. I'm definitely a hugger versus, a shaker. So it's one to where there's just certain things that you can't get from virtual. So, and I've been at my events, I've been very clear about that. But I also can't deny the benefits that have also come out of virtual networking. I am not a tech person at all, which most people know that about me, which is kind of interesting for, a guy who has an app on the phone, for his company. But before COVID hit, I knew that there was people doing Zoom meetings and go-to meetings and stuff like that, but I had never really participated in them, and I definitely had not produced one. As soon as COVID hit, we then had to pivot and started now having virtual events. And we ended up having our first 3-day virtual event, and me learning Zoom and all of this stuff. So it definitely brought another aspect to the to our company, which we were looking at doing, but it was one where I kind of put it on the back burner. Yeah, we'll do that later. But Corona came in and said, no, you're going to do it today. So and there has been benefits as far as the reach is concerned. Last month was our 10-year anniversary, and I was trying to figure out how we were going to celebrate that. And the year prior, we had our 9-year anniversary, had close to 400 people that came out. So, I was like, okay, for our 10-year, we're going to make this even bigger, but, wasn't able to do that. So we ended up deciding having instead of a large event, we just kind of spread it over. So we actually had 10 virtual events last month. And it was actually really good. It was tiring, but it was actually really good. And one of the aspects that I had that came from that event, I had an event at 6 p.m. at night for nonprofits. And I had somebody who was in Nigeria that was on the event. And I was like, wow, Nigeria. And I said, what time is it there? He's like, oh, it's 2 a.m. And I was like, wow, like having somebody that definitely would not have been able to come to our event before, and he's actually attended several of our events since then, you know, we would not have had that same reach if we weren't able to do virtual. So with that, again, it is not the same. It definitely is not the same, but there's definitely some benefits from doing virtual.
Yeah, I'd echo that. Just with even like BNI groups, you know, there've been people from all over the country jump on our BNI meeting that you would have never ever met. And I think even to speak to Peter's point too, that's just another way to build your database that maybe an in-person wouldn't have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. On the virtual.
So like Corey, I do not like it right now. I don't, because I'm out there and, you know, I get my energy from being with other people. And so I have done a couple virtual, but I didn't like them. And so like, I had to think, well, what can I do to stay engaged with people, right? That's really what you're trying to do. How do you stay engaged with them? So for me, there's two things that I've done. I've got the Real Estate Connection group that I've got, like I said, right at 20,000 people. And so I'm able to engage. But here's the other thing that I've done and I've increased that has kind of been a little chicken soup for my soul. So every morning, I send out 20 to 25 texts to people. And then I follow up with a phone call. So what do I put in the text? Well, first of all, you know, I put something where, you know, I'm hope and I want to know, is everybody in their family and loved ones safe and healthy? Because I think you have to show people that you care about them, right? And then I ask them, which is, okay, how have you been doing? And I always end with, what can I do to help you? Right? I think it's important to people know that you do that. And so that leads to some really great back and forth with people. And so I have, you know, increased my texts and phone calls. And even though I've done them, I've done more of that, which kind of takes place of some of the one-on-ones that I could do.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Joel, I know how you feel about online networking as well, or Zoom networking as well.
With Corey.
All right. Well, with everybody. I mean, I think it's, you know, none of it's ideal. And I'll be honest, I think, you know, some of I've done some other stuff where it's like virtual happy hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not that guy.
I've been to live networking events. Over 2 months ago, I belong to a lot of business, associations and chambers, and the KBA, which is Kennesaw Business Association, they had a cookout lunch in outdoors at a park in Kennesaw. They had about 150 people registered, about 100 showed up. So you got 100 people standing around. You don't know whether to shake or elbow or fist bump or hug. And it was kind of like awkward. So you may stick your hand out and they would just give you an elbow, which you knew where they were. And some people would throw their hand out at you. And I'm okay with shaking hands. So, I mean, obviously we're in very strange times, very unique times, but I actually hosted an event about a month and a half ago. I have a new business association, and we had about 40 people there. It's for the people who want to get out. There are people who will go out. If you have health issues, you're not going out under any circumstance. So I think it's really whoever shows up to a live event now, they're okay with it, and I assume the other person's okay with it. So that's what I'm feeling. I'm going out to whatever little live events there are. Oh yeah, I went to the Gwinnett Chamber last Friday, and you know, instead of 4 people on the table, there were 2 people on the table. There were about 40 people there, so there could have been 100 people there, but only 40 wanted to show up. So there's still live opportunities now, not 4 months ago, but now.
Right. No, absolutely. Well, I want to open it up just to, and Michael, I know you have a lot of experience in this field as well, but I want to just kind of open it up to anybody has a success story. I don't know that. I mean, I think we all can agree that it sucks. So I don't know that needs to be said again. I don't want the running joke, running conversation to be how much it stinks. But what are some things that y'all want to know more about that you have experienced, positive especially? So let's open it up to the group. You can take yourself off mute and give us your experiences.
Yeah, this is Peter, the other Peter, the senior Peter in the group. But I've expanded to get licensed in Alabama, Texas, and Florida to kind of get ahead of the COVID-19, because if my folks catch it, the likelihood of them getting a policy is kind of harder to navigate. And I've found that in the process of doing that, there, as alluded to earlier, there are people that I'll run into or I'll get as referrals that I would have never been able to do outside of being, on virtual to some extent. Most of the carriers that I use are now telephonic in the sense that I do a voice capture. So it's a little easier to navigate, and just sharing stories like Michael does to kind of get those folks to hang with you for a moment. But the virtual thing, as Corey alluded to, someone from outside, it's always a little different now. There's less gasoline issues in terms of trying to get to a client. You can do it on the phone, and it's much smoother.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll jump in and just dovetail on what Peter just said. I enjoy the fact that we can see more people certainly and travel less with virtual meetings. Now, I've got I'll say a history with Corey and with Joel and Peter. I've been to one or two of your events, and obviously standing in front of people and building a relationship is fantastic. But the reality is that virtual meetings, virtual networking is here to stay. So I just think that the key to it is continuity. You can't bounce all over the board and be in every Hollywood square, multiple times during a day. You still need to build that relationship, and you can build a relationship virtually. Personally, I would rather stand in front of somebody without a mask. You can see if they're smiling, if they're laughing, if they're listening. But again, we got to deal with reality as it is. And until we can get back to actually, being in large group settings, and obviously, Joel, I hope, October is a great success with the big event. But I'm just a realist. Maybe I'm an old realist. So I'm in the category where I've got to be more careful than others. But again, the reality is this is here to stay. We just have to learn how to do it. And most importantly, and I'll focus on it again, continuity. Being on networking groups consistently so that people get to know you. It's not the amount of networking, virtual networking you do, it's the quality, just like it was before. Quality is king.
Well, I think you bring up a good point as well. Whenever I've done, conversations or speeches or talks or whatever it is about networking, I've always just said is, continuity. You can't just show up one time. You can't just show up one time and expect, Joel's going to send me all his, his mortgage thing because I showed up to his event one time. So, it's the same thing, with Fuse it's, you might have to show up 6 times. You might have to show up 10 times. Part of what makes people decide to do business with you is they trust you, that, they think you're an expert in your field. And if you're always late, if you're not a man or a woman that's true to their word and says they're going to be there and don't, I love the folks. And I know Joel, I'm pointing at my computer at this point. I know Joel and Peter and Corey know that, you have all these people that RSVP to your event, and then you plan on this many showing up, and then this many show up, and then, and they're all different numbers. And I'm like, that in and of itself, you're going, I don't know that I can really trust that person. They told me that they were coming and they didn't come.
Yeah.
So, I think from an organizer standpoint, y'all, if you're not an organizer, you may not necessarily see that on as wide a scale. But yeah, I think continuity and doing what you say you're going to do is important, and that translates whatever kind of networking relationships you do. Anybody else want to? Well, no, we're going for at least 5 more minutes, if not 35 more minutes. So let's keep the conversation going. Who's got another question?
Well, if I will, May, this is Michael. Let me just talk about continuity and that simple saying of know, like, and trust people. Back to Peter's point about sending the text each morning. That's been a routine of mine since texts were possible, and I got into it. But back in 1995, how many people had their first email address in 1995 or so? All right. Well, you remember that company, MindSpring?
Mm-hmm.
I still carry a moniker from then. I opened up an email address, sell by phone at mindspring.com, and I used that to begin to build a brand. So people have to know what to expect from you. But I realized, as Bob said, I was able to actually do a lot more by cutting down my windshield time. And at the time, I was manager of about 50 salespeople around the world, around the country, not around the world, around the country. And I trained them all to spend less time looking at their windshields and more time looking at the dial pad on their phone, a rotary dial back in those days, right? But the consistency and the continuity. I've been blessed to live in Atlanta since 1975. So living in the different communities and being established in the different communities and finding those 5 or 10 folks that build your circle in those small places, it becomes very critical. And it's no different now when you can't network than when you could network, in my opinion. And as Bob said, you can actually appear. My last point, back in middle of March, I elected to start some new groups. So I started a 25-person mastermind style group, or I call it a think tank or an anthill. And I've been able to successfully now for about 28 weeks pull those same 25 people. I only get about 17 or 18, to your point, Art. They all don't show up because they seem to want to schedule something on top of the same time they're already committed to. And that allows us to remove some people from the group over time. But the consistency of the 10 or 11 people who have literally been there almost every meeting for just an hour, very structured. They know exactly what they're going to get, sort of, and they bring exactly what they need to bring, sort of, makes a difference. Also, I run a men's group, which is people all at risk, on Tuesday night, and the same thing there. The consistency in the process people get, they're looking for something, they get something. And then we all know that virtual happy hours do work, and that would really be a test of how well you can, as you said earlier, have that gift to pull a crowd together. Even if it's only 6 or 8 people for an hour, those people will begin to appreciate what you do and who you are and how you do it. So I'd encourage you to look for, as we're coming out of COVID, if you want a project for a day, go through those 200, 500, 5,000, or 19,900, and how many, Peter, in your list, and find those 100 or 50 or even 25 folks who you would like to be successful with on the other side of this project, and start building back up to a group which you can know, like, and trust.
Good input. Rick, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to mention it's kind of related, but as far as networking goes, if we really embrace, I mean, I really think it's exciting if we embrace this technology. I'm thinking about my retirement years and maybe not working so hard. Well, technology allows it now. I mean, I could be in the mountains, or I could be up in Maine, or I could be at my house, or I can be in Atlanta, and still keep networking, still keep doing, money-making opportunities, but it might be one day a week. I mean, think about it. You may do one day a week, and almost not tell people, and they still think you're, so to speak, in the game. I was speaking to a young lady who's been in commercial real estate lending for 30 years. And I didn't know it. I've been talking to her and doing stuff, and she now lives at the Villages down in Florida. But you wouldn't know it to talk to her. The phone is clear and crisp. Her phone number hasn't changed. She's on Zoom calls. She's doing deals and, in between playing golf. So I think that one thing we can get out of this COVID experience is it is great to use the technology and have a great database to stay connected, to visually be with people. And then obviously, you know, we'll get together one-on-one, but you can almost appear like a full-timer if you want. And instead of doing 10 deals a month, do 3 deals a month and keep the juices going. So I just think it's a great opportunity to learn and carry this technology, networking and all that forward, because a lot of us can be remote superstars when we want to.
I'd like to piggyback a little bit on what Rick said. I know that, again, I am an extrovert and I do enjoy that hug more than, you know, the non-hug. But I also cannot deny the benefits that virtual networking has rewarded me specifically. Definitely been able to reach out to a wider branch of people than I would have been doing before, excuse me, which has been great. I actually had a situation where there was a product that I was looking for from somebody, and I ended up networking with a lady in California who has been coming to our events, and which I would have never met had we not been having virtual. For her to then refer me to a person here in Georgia who I actually been doing business with. I've been to his house, but I would have never known that he did this had she not referred me to him. And then he, you know, like, I mean, certain little things like that has been phenomenal. Also during this period, you know, we've had to figure out ways to kind of do business differently. And we've actually discovered some new strategies that we would not have even looked at before had this time had not come in. I know that I was on a Zoom session at some point, and somebody brought up to me, which I've been using ever since, is the law of polarity, which states that there is 2 sides to everything. And it is very hard to think about something having another side if it's very large and it's very negative, which COVID has been. But the law of polarity states that there is 2 sides to everything. So, you know, taking that time to be able to say, okay, even though this has been very large and it's been very negative for a lot of people, you know, are there any positives that I can pull from it? And once I really started trying to investigate that as far as it related to our business, we've actually discovered some strategies, again, that we would not have discovered had it not been for this time period. So I really do say that, yes, I mean, I'm very clear about it. Yeah, I do miss, you know, giving Peter a hug and shaking Joel's hand and having events with them. But at the same time, there has definitely been some positives that we have gotten from it, and will continue to get from it. And Rick brought up a lot of that, like and Michael brought up the efficiency you can't beat. I mean, you cannot beat the efficiency. It has been, you know, you can definitely just do a little bit or a lot more in a shorter amount of time. And again, the reach, you can't beat the reach as well. So
I agree. Anybody else want to comment?
So, hey, this is Tracy, and I was working remote long before it was cool, but I definitely am embracing this. But I think the one thing for me, being someone who considers herself kind of middle age, and I even hate saying that, but what it's doing too for me is it's opening up for younger people because they're way more technology forward than maybe my 85-year-old client is. But it's really making me understand that as we move forward, the younger generation is gonna do this. They're not real huge on the hug yet. They're not real huge on that social interaction face to face. They're more comfortable behind a computer screen, and it's really made me, as I work with my younger loan officers and work with my younger processors, realize they're quite comfortable in this space. So I need to adjust to that and kind of get comfortable in that as well, of building a relationship online over the phone versus seeing them, because I cover territory from Florida to Colorado up to Chicago. I can't go see all those people, so we have to build it digitally, and this has kind of forced us to do it, but it's built relationships I would have never had before, and I think going forward, we're just going to see more of that.
Yep. Art, I'd like to agree with that. I think it's been one of those things that I would much rather meet in person. I only, I think, came to a couple of meetings and joined, and next thing we know, COVID's here. And so I really miss getting to know you guys in person. But I just realized that's the way it is. And it does give you the opportunity to, in a week, visit with a whole lot more people than you could physically. And I get that. At our church, we had to finish a program up with a men's group, all virtual, and we did lose some folks who just did not want to do the virtual thing. But this year we started it back up, and we were able to offer in-person and virtual. And so the people who wanted to continue didn't feel like going in person, which was about 25%. The other 70% actually are there every single Friday meeting in person, which is kind of a nice thing to have 60 guys back together again, even though we break out into smaller rooms instead of one large room. We go to separate smaller rooms and spread everybody out. But it's just the way of dealing with things. And someone mentioned a virtual happy hour a minute ago. I think it might have been Michael mentioned that they are successful. On top of that, I would just like to throw in one reason I wanted to make sure I saw everybody today is I'm hoping to do a virtual bourbon tasting. So if anybody would like to put their email address down in the comments in the chat, and I will write bourbon next to it or something like that, I will send you an invitation to my virtual bourbon tasting. I don't know, I'm not going to claim to know much about bourbon. I just love it. and this seems to be a good kit because the first link I linked it to sold out, not from just me, but just from people loving bourbon. So I found 2 more links to places online that you could pick up the kit. So just put your email with bourbon next to it or something like that, and I will send you an invite. It's in October 16th, I think is the date I picked. So I would love to meet up with people after hours doing a bourbon tasting.
Hey, Art.
Yeah.
One thing really quick to mention, you know, this is just another tool in our toolbox. You know, you can get zoomed out and maybe hugged out. It's just another tool in our toolbox. And I know a residential real estate agent who has a place down in Florida. And she just says, this is wonderful. She says, I go to Florida now and I'm Zooming with people on Long Island and doing virtual tours for them. And I got a relationship going on with some of the real estate agents up in Long Island who are getting referrals. You know, she couldn't do this with hugs. She couldn't do this in person. It's opened up a whole world for her. So instead of working in Atlanta all the time, she drives down there 6 hours, gets in her condo and works, and she's, you know, another place in life that she loves to be at. And the Zoom kind of technology now, you know, has afforded her some variety. And so again, it's just another tool in the toolbox to work outside of Atlanta.
I have a question for y'all. My question is, you know, in the beginning, I love networking with different people, and there was a social etiquette to networking. When you go in person, you had an etiquette to follow. You had a way to introduce yourself to a bunch of people. So in the beginning of this, I went to a couple events. They weren't specifically networking events. I went to one networking and a bunch of other events. And it was so challenging because there was so many people talking all over each other in the middle of a Zoom meeting. And it just stressed me out. And I was, okay, I'm over Zoom because I'm not a technology guy. I love to be with people. You know, I love to be in front of people and meeting people. And so I've been looking around now at different networking events that have more breakout sessions where they're a little more intimate. But in your experience with these networking events, what kind of etiquette would you be following now being on Zoom? Is there a specific way you should interject yourself and butt into the middle of a conversation when you have many different people talking? Is there any rules that you recommend?
I'll jump in here because
go ahead, Michael.
Like many of you, I'm on a number of calls every day, and as I shared with you earlier, I've been working in this process of conference calls and so forth for pretty much 20 years. And it goes back to an etiquette. It also goes back to, as Art would probably say, and Tori knows, it's sort of a leadership product. It's a learned skill, and you can't really have, I'll use a number, more than 25 easily, but somewhere in that 15 to 20 range or 12 to 15 range, depending on the nature of the group, seems to work best. So here we have 28 on the line right now, and it's worked very well today. There have been very few examples where courtesy is not the king. And also expectation. If you are working with folks who you know many of the faces on the screen, it becomes a little easier to communicate than having just a free-for-all. But I will point back to also, as you said, the breakout rooms. Back to the facilitation and the purpose. The 2 and 3 person breakout rooms and even the 3 and 4 person breakout rooms are very effective when you'll give a subject and give a time limit and push people into a room to make it a thought leadership role. That is really the king of right now, in my opinion, of how we use these products. If you have more than 2 people connecting one-to-one, you have 3, 4, 5, or 10, then you need to provide some variety to keep people very much engaged in the process. Throw that back on the table.
Yeah. And Jonathan, great seeing you. Like Michael said, I think when COVID first came and everybody was hopping on the Zoom, you know, everybody was just kind of filling it out and trying to figure out what was going to be the right formula. I would venture out to say by now, most event producers have tried to figure out strategies to make the experience of their attendees better, because having a quote unquote networking event where you have 20 or more people that are all like, let's say like this, where this is more educational versus networking right now, it doesn't work, because again, you'll have one person talking and then you'll have 19 other people listening, which is not true networking. So most networking events have started utilizing the breakout rooms in a Zoom to be able to start breaking them up. So it's one of those two, as an attendee, making sure that the event that you go to, the format of it or the platform of it is exactly what it is. Like for instance, you're not going to get networking done if you're on a webinar platform. You're not going to get, you might not get as much done on like a platform like this comparatively if it's more education based versus the actual strategic of networking. And then I would find some of those event organizers who actually, I mean, let's just say it like this. There are certain people who, like, they produce events, like this is what they do. And they actually care about, or they put more thought and time and energy into the actual production of the event. So it's one to where, like for us, because we produce so many events, my goal was to have events to where everybody's zoomed out right now. But my goal was to have an event where a person actually forgets that they're on Zoom, which is not easy to do, but there is a formula to it. So it's one to where with all these different networking events that are out there, you do want to try to hop around and find your one that you're going to go to. And like Art was saying, you want to go to more than once and be there, but find a platform that's actually going to work for you. And again, there are some organizers out there that have, let me say it like this, there's some organizers out there that have put more thought into it than other organizers. So definitely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And I think that's true too. My first reaction to what is it really a lot of times driven by the leader, and I think that, this is, we've probably put on, probably just 6 or 8 of these, whatever it is now. And I'd like to think that things are, we're putting more and more thought into it and trying to, I mean, it's no different than in anything. As a leader, I mean, it ultimately lies on you so that people are getting the best out of it. And it's, you can't have a free-for-all where everybody's,
exactly.
trying to talk. But, and the other thing I was going to mention as well is, true successful folks, they take lemons and make lemonade. So just because we don't like it, or this isn't the opportune thing. There are a lot of people out there that are making a lot of money or have always made a lot of money, taking an issue or a challenge and turning it into an opportunity. So, Corey, I think that's exactly what you're talking about, and Michael and Peter as well is like, okay, we don't like it. My dad used to say, he says, you got an opportunity here. Whatever happened, it happened. You can't change it. You can't fix it. It's all about how you respond to it. You know, it's just about your response.
Yeah, I agree too. That, you know, when these meetings first started, some of them were very chaotic, but like today's meeting, they've just seemed to get more and more organized over time. And in a way, they're more enjoyable because people aren't talking over each other. Everybody has developed an etiquette where they're very polite and very, you know, they found the way to do it. And so I've gotten to where I don't have that anxiety when I used to get on. You know, I'm in one group right now, and we started, instead of doing our regular having a speaker who talks about his business or whatever, we've heard for years, you know, we've been in the same group, we know what their business is, whatever. We've started doing, they've been showing family pictures and stuff in their presentation, and it's really made us feel closer together to be able to see how their family has grown over the past 10 years or however long. And we feel more connected to each other now than we did before, because it was always just straight business. And now there's a little bit of business and a lot more personality coming out of some of the events. And I've enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's a great, yeah, there's a Zenix mortgage school in Atlanta that has grown nationwide. Fantastic. And one of the things, this is off topic, but on topic at the same time, she had a realtor completely throw under the bus one time, you know, because her first question, she ran into her in the shopping, the shopping center. And it was, you know, hey, how's business? Hey, and that was everything. Hey, how's business? How's business? And she said, you know, I've known you for yeah, umpteen number of years, and you've never really asked me how I'm doing personally. You know, and so, you know, it's like, how's business? How's business? And one of my best friends on the planet, you know, that's a man that, you know, one of the few that will actually pick up the phone and say, how are you doing today? And I think when you can show personal, you know, kind of show that you're a real person, and you show that you care. And I think that's, you know, even to Peter's point when he initially said it, you know, what can we do for you? You know, it's not what can you do for me. So anybody else have anything? Want to wrap it up? Or
I would like to ask our experts. So a year from now, do you think it's going to be back to the way it was, or will it be a fusion per se of a mixture between pre-COVID and COVID, or back to normal?
I'll take that. So here's what's interesting. I probably get 25 plus texts through Messenger, even now, ask me, when am I starting back Real Estate Connections? And, you know, what I tell people is I truly believe Real Estate Connections will become bigger than it was because people yearn, but I don't know when. It's you know, people have such a wide range of feelings about this. So, like, one of the things I posted in my group was, how many people are going back shaking hands? Some people said, I have not, I still hug. Some people said, I'm shaking hands, and some people say, I never will shake hands again. And so there's a very wide range, and people feel very strongly about this, right? I mean, personally for me is, I think it's important to be respectful for whatever people feel, right? There's not a right or wrong with that. So I truly believe networking will come back. But that's not to say that virtual won't be here. You know, I mean, I think there's going to be a few different ways of doing business. And so I think the person who can adjust will end up being the most successful. It's just like in the 10 years that I have done Real Estate Connections, you know, my first event, I had 93 people. People are like, oh my God, 93 people. And I'm thinking, okay, at that point I had 20,000 people. I didn't think 93 was great. But what I had to do, you know, was tweak, right? There were, like for me, one of my biggest challenges was having a real estate event where I had more realtors, right? Because if I had more realtors, then I got more lenders, then I got more investors, then I got more insurance. I mean, and so, you know, this is no different than before, where you've got to be able to navigate, you need to be able to lead, but I think there's a way of doing it, which is just with respect for everyone, because nobody is right and nobody is wrong.
And I think for me, and actually before I say mine, I just want to say, Peter, thank you for that. And I don't know if people caught that nugget that Peter just said, but between having a database at the time when he started of 20,000 people and had 93 people come, for a person who puts on an event, that's not a good ratio. So it's one to where it's like, but what he did was he said he tweaked it. And that's what we have to do just in business in general, is that if we come up with an ideal about something, regardless of what we think it's going to do, if it doesn't do that at the beginning, then that's where that tweaking comes in. And now Peter has, one of the largest networking events in Atlanta. So again, Peter, thank you for that nugget. For us, we are definitely going to continue doing virtual networking. Right now, we have approximately 3 to 4 virtual concepts that we are going to continue doing, really moving forward. Once we can get outside, or we feel comfortable to get outside and play again, we will do some